This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome once again from Johannesburg here in South Africa. I'm Eben Jansen. The show, of course, live. It's broadcast from our studios here in Auckland Park. We are also streaming live on YouTube right now, but the whole show is always available on demand on our YouTube channel. Now, today we're back in Nigeria, where the country holds its breath ahead of elections there tomorrow. We look at moves afoot here in South Africa to extend undergraduate studies by an extra year. What do you think about that and the cost implications? Then the world's toughest sporting event, Iron Man. Well, it will be in Port Elizabeth over the weekend. Janine will give us a live update later. And we close with a look at the Soapy Awards. Are there too many award ceremonies in South Africa? I don't know. At SABC Newsroom is where you can give us your views. But first, let's get the day's news from Anine Dormel.
Good morning, I'm Anine Dormel. Let's just have a look at the stories making headlines today. The police and the National Prosecuting Authority are expected to meet today to discuss an impasse over the summons issued against NPA Deputy Head Nonkoba Jiba. It appears the NPA handed the summons to police officers who were not appointed to investigate the Jiba case. Police say they were shocked to hear about the summons in the media on Wednesday. The police have also reiterated that their investigation of Jiba has not been finalized. Judgment is expected in the Luke Tibbetts murder trial in the High Court sitting in Palm Ridge. Lindre Kaku is facing 18 charges, including the murder of 3-year-old Tibbetts. The toddler was hit by a stray bullet allegedly fired by Kaku while sitting on his mother's lap in August last year. Last week, murder-accused Kaku told the court that his firearm could have been the one that killed the toddler. Eskom CEO Tediso Matona should know today if his suspension will be reversed. The Labour Court in Johannesburg is expected to deliver judgment in the challenge by Matona not to be suspended. He is one of 4 senior Eskom executives who were asked to step down earlier this month while the power utility held a fact-finding inquiry. A peace accord has been signed and it's all systems go for the Nigeria elections. The country's 2 main candidates signed the accord ahead of tomorrow's hotly contested presidential elections. This in an effort to prevent religious or ethnic violence from disrupting the process. There are, however, reports saying a migration from the Christian quarter of Kano in northern Nigeria is taking place because of fears of violence. Reports suggest that at least 19 people have been injured after an explosion in New York City. A powerful explosion in Manhattan caused 2 buildings to collapse. Terrorism has been ruled out as preliminary investigations revealed the blast was probably caused by a gas leak. Airlines have rushed to change their rules so as to require a second crew member in the cockpit at all times. This comes after French aviation investigators say co-pilot Andreas Lubitz barricaded himself in the cockpit of the A320 Germanwings flight. All 150 people on board were killed when the plane slammed into the French Alps on Tuesday. There's no evidence that the co-pilot had terrorist motives. Members of the Proteas team have received a warm welcome from South African cricket fans this morning. Captain AB de Villiers expressed his gratitude and surprise at the welcome the team received. The team progressed through to their first knockout match in the tournament history, but also lost to co-host New Zealand in the semi-final.
Hi, my message to the Proteas is well done, well played, and it was great getting up early, watching you guys. Very proud of you. Good luck for next time, and this time we played really, really well. Very, very proud.
The message to the Proteas is just thank you. You guys did us well, you fought hard. Yeah, we're all proud of you as a country. Thanks. That's about it.
The outfield is wet, the ball was getting soggy. Every other player played amazingly, and I love the guys. I love all of them, every single one. Maybe not Behadi, but I love everyone. Everyone.
Well, remember, you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page. Just search for Newsroom. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Evan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Janine. Now, Nigerians are heading to the polls tomorrow to elect a new government to rule Africa's most populous country for the next 4 years. Nigeria is determined to curb election fraud that has marred previous elections there. The country's electoral commission, the INEC, will for the first time use biometric card readers in tomorrow's elections. The 2015 election is the fifth quadrennial election to be held since the end of military rule in that country in 1999. Now, for a quick update on the latest, our East African correspondent, Sarah Kimani, is in West Africa, in Nigeria. Very good morning to you, Sarah. Thanks for joining us.
Indeed, I'm in West Africa, and a very good morning to you from Lagos, Eben.
Sarah, just give us a quick idea. What have you observed? Tell us, is Nigeria ready to go to the polls tomorrow?
Well, indeed, the people are ready to go to the polls. Today, we've just been out and we've seen sensitive, what they call sensitive electoral material, be now distributed to the various areas ahead of the elections tomorrow. There's also very heavy security presence, at least here in Lagos. The country has also closed its land and sea borders to any outsiders beginning Wednesday until Saturday midnight. They're also going to be no flying tomorrow during the elections the whole day.
Now, Sarah, so far it's billed as a two-horse race, a very closely fought rematch between incumbent Goodluck Jonathan and former military ruler Muhammadu Buhari. Just tell us about the mood on the ground, and then these two candidates, they said yesterday that they'll accept whatever the outcome is of this election and share the hug. Is that kind of the mood at the moment?
Indeed, the two leaders signed yet another peace agreement saying that they will respect the outcome of the elections. They said their supporters must refrain from violence despite the outcome of the elections. On the ground, the mood is that of excitement. It is very difficult to tell because depending on the side of the street you are on, you'll find people who are for Jonathan. You cross the other side and you find several people for Buhari. Just by gauging on the ground, it is easy to tell that this is going to be a very hotly contested election. The issues are also very wide. A lot of people want security, others want corruption to be sorted out. Other people just want to have a good education for their children, basic health facilities. It is a high-stakes election in Nigeria.
Now, Sarah, the rise of Islamist group Boko Haram has really put a damper on proceedings. The elections was moved out by 6 weeks, postponed from the 14th of February last month. How are these two frontrunners, how are they talking about security? Has it been an issue? And then how is the country preparing on the security front for tomorrow's polls?
In fact, Boko Haram is one of the issues that is a campaign battleground. Buhari and his supporters saying that President Goodluck Jonathan, in the 6 years that he has led the country, has been unable to put an end to the Boko Haram insurgency. At least 13,000 people have been killed during that time. But Jonathan says he has managed, and he says that it would be wrong to change a general during a time of war. He says the country is at war with the Boko Haram. He says they are winning. And he says this would be the wrong time to get him out of the seat. In terms of whether they will be voting in the areas that are being controlled by Boko Haram, we understand that elections will be taking place in most of those areas, especially in areas that the African troops have regained territory.
And Sarah, what about enthusiasm? Has there been any effect on the people's enthusiasm for this election by this long postponement?
Well, the postponement, actually, what it did is that it gave a lot of people time to collect their PVCs, but also what it did is that it prepared the ground more and gave people more time to campaign. However, out of the 68 million registered voters, only 57 million have collected their cards. So it means there's still a big group that will not be able to vote, not because they did not register, but because they did not collect their permanent voters' cards. Of course, the Electoral Commission will be betting on technology to make these elections more fraud-free.
Thank you very much, Sarah Kimani. That is our normally East African correspondent, Sarah Kimani, who's now in Lagos in West Africa for the next couple of days to give us updates on the Nigerian election. You can look out for her reports. We'll get one a little bit later in the show. But for an analysis now ahead of the election, the Nigerian election, we are joined from Pretoria by senior researcher from the Institute of Security Studies, Richard Cornwell. A very good morning to you, Richard. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Let's talk about policy issues quickly, Richard, before we get into other scenarios around security and the like. What do you see as being key so far in the run-up to this election regarding policy, or has Boko Haram been the overriding factor?
Boko Haram has certainly dominated the headlines, obviously, but corruption. This is the emphasis that Buhari's been putting on the elections, because Nigerians, by and large, are fed up to the back teeth with the corruption of the political system. Indeed, there's only about 8% of Nigerians who've been polled who think that these elections will be free and fair.
You talk about corruption, and the country often is accused of institutionalized corruption. I want to talk about...
Politics is basically the way to great wealth, and this is what makes it a zero-sum game. To be a loser in the Nigerian elections is to lose access to immense wealth. Of the money, the disposable money that's available to government after it's paid salaries, it's estimated that between 60 and 70% is actually stolen. So this indicates to you that the patronage and client networks in the Nigerian political system are awash with cash. It's been calculated that in the last 10 years alone, some $100 billion has disappeared from the oil accounts, and nobody can say where it is.
Talking about those oil accounts, what happens if Muhammadu Buhari wins this election in the Niger Delta with regards to that? He's very much from the north, and the oil's in the hand of the Christian south. Isn't that the case?
Well, it's in the southeast, and what's important here is that Goodluck Jonathan, the president, has managed to strike deals with the rebels in the Niger Delta, who were stealing oil. They still are, in fact, but amnesties have been given. Basically, protection payments have been made to many of these people, the militants of the Niger Delta. If Buhari wins, the Niger Delta militants are saying we will start operations again and there will be a civil war in this region. Whether that's an empty threat, one doesn't know. But obviously it's in the minds of people. Just as Boko Haram in the north, or the northerners, are saying that if Buhari loses, there will be hell to pay. So these are background stories that people are just hoping don't come to fruition. The big thing to remember is that all Nigerian elections, even before Boko Haram and MEND in the Niger Delta, have been violent. In 2011, more than 800 people lost their lives in election violence or post-election violence. So I think that what we're looking at is the almost certainty of violence, unfortunately. It's just a matter of how much is kept under control. The fact that the two leaders have come together to say that they will accept the results doesn't mean that their followers necessarily will. And one has to remember that it's not just a federal election that's going to be taking place in the next few weeks, it's also governorships, the governorships for the 36 states, and those are also avenues to great wealth.
Let's talk about the economy quickly, and has this been a talking point ahead of it, with the backstory being the global fall of the oil price?
Yes, it has indeed. I mean, this has cut back on the amount available to distribute through the client-patron networks, but also it's led to a devaluation of the naira by 20%, which means that imported goods, and Nigeria has become increasingly dependent, its urban elites have become increasingly dependent on imported foodstuffs, that these have become more expensive. One has to remember also that despite the fact that Nigeria boasts an economy with a GDP, who are also Muslims, most of the people who've been victims of Boko Haram are Muslims. My big worry also in the Boko Haram issue is that a number of, hundreds of thousands of Nigerians have been displaced, some across the borders. Now those borders are closed. How will they vote? They can't. How will people who have been displaced from their areas of registration, how will they vote? 1.5 million Nigerians have been displaced from the Boko Haram areas. This could be a factor in deciding the outcome of the elections.
Well, Richard, thank you for that contribution this morning. An interesting view on the election that's happening in Nigeria tomorrow. Let's just recap. Nigerians go to the polls tomorrow in what is expected to be a very close run race between President Goodluck Jonathan and his main challenger, Muhammadu Buhari. The main presidential candidate signed a peace accord yesterday, promising to hold peaceful polls and refrain from inciting religious or ethnic tension afterwards.
It's less than 48 hours to one of Nigeria's most anticipated elections. While here at the Wuse market in Abuja, scores of people go about their daily business. But come election day on Saturday, they will join more than 50 million people as they queue at the polling stations. But it's not going to be an election without any hiccups. As many argue, they're still without permanent voter cards. The Independent National Electoral Commission was frank about the problem.
As I talk to you, still some people have not gotten their permanent voters card. But I can say without any fear of thoughtful contradiction that to a very large extent we've tried to address it. Because if you take the global average, you discover that we've crossed a critical threshold, which invariably means that we are good to go. We've made more than 80% now, and that means we've crossed a critical threshold for the sake of elections.
Causing distress that the poll will go ahead. Crisalda Lewis, SABC News, Abuja in Nigeria.
Let's take a quick look at your views. What are you tweeting about with regards to Nigeria's election? Harry Hare says, wishing my brothers and sisters in Nigeria a peaceful election, period. Make us proud as you choose your leaders. Yes, that is a wish we send here from South Africa as well. Unfortunately, it hasn't always been the case in Nigerian elections. Kofi Yeboah says, Nigeria will vote in peace and the country will continue to be the largest economy in Africa. Foreign media be warned. Yes, foreign media members have already been arrested and placed under house arrest in Abuja. It was Stanley Bentu says, have the candidates done enough to convince you for your votes? Who will you be voting for tomorrow and why? Hashtag Nigeria elections. That's where you can see it. Bunny Singh says, let us hope the elections in Nigeria will carry on peacefully. It can be a beacon of hope for a lot of African countries. Yes, it can indeed be. Cynthia Odibelli says, Nigeria elections, that's all I see everywhere. The whole world has their eyes fixed on our nation. That is correct, Cynthia. You are the largest economy on the African continent. South Africans don't always like to hear that, but that is the case. Today's tweet of the day, well, it comes from, is it Senor Ahenkra Aguamoa on the Nigerian elections. Let's just have a look at it. Now, it says, elections are not about religion, tribe, or ethnicity, or political lineage even. He says it's about policies that alleviate poverty. Spoken like a true sage. He says, Nigeria decides. Yes, that is the fact. It is about who makes life better for all the people that lives within the borders of that country. Let's now take a look at what's happening elsewhere in the world. It seems as if the Nigerian elections is very much on everyone's mind now. In the country itself, the Vanguard there reports that the federal government has directed the closure of all Nigeria's land and sea borders ahead of Saturday's polls. That's the Vanguard in Nigeria, as you can see. Then, as we move north to Europe, The Times says a co-pilot with a history of depression was suffering from a personal life crisis when he locked the captain out of the cockpit of an airliner and flew 149 other people, into a mountainside at 500 miles per hour, it was claimed last night. Andreas Lubitz was suspended from Lufthansa's flight school. He was also said to have had a fallout with his girlfriend. Now, in Australia, of course, they love a winner down there, don't they? They report that Australian batsmen Aaron Finch and Steve Smith embraced each other after the latter reached his century yesterday in a 93-ball innings of 105 during the victorious World Cup cricket semi-final against was it India? Against India. Yes, it was against India. There we go. Thank you very much. Now, I can tell you, having been in Australia, they love to celebrate a winner, don't they? Anyhow, let's take a look at what's happening in our country here, South Africa, today. We start here in Johannesburg, in the High Court sitting in Palm Reef, where the judgment in the trial of Lindre Kaku will be heard. Kaku is appearing on 18 charges, including the killing of 3-year-old Luke Tibbets. Then we move south, the High Court in Cape Town. Well, will receive a psychiatric report in the murder trial of Andrew Chimboza, who killed his ex-client's lover and ate his heart. Then, on a lighter note, we stay in the mother city, Cape Town that is. 35,000 music fans are expected to attend the 16th annual Cape Town International Jazz Festival that starts there this evening. It's always a fantastic show. It should be really, really good. Now, each year, Mozambique is hit by floods, which leaves a trail of death and devastation. SABC 3's investigative program, Special Assignment, has gone in search of Mozambique's most famous flood victim. That was Rosita Mabuyango. She was born in a tree above the flooded Limpopo River 15 years ago this month. Join Frank Farrow on Special Assignment this Sunday on SABC 3 at 8:30 p.m. for this exclusive report.
In March 2000, these images became the human face of Mozambique's tragedy and survival when a young mother, Sofia Mabuyango, gave birth to a baby girl in a tree. They called her Rosita. She's now 15 years old.
Cada vez que acontece as cheias, né? As pessoas de fora se lembram que em 2000 há uma menina que nasceu em cima de uma árvore.
Estás triste?
Não, me sinto pouco emocionada.
Rosita became an instant celebrity. Politicians were fascinated by her story when, as a baby, she traveled to Washington, a trip that raised millions of dollars in aid for her country.
Baby Rosita brings a message of hope, but now it's up to the Congress to be the instruments of that hope.
But the spotlight on Rosita has since dimmed. The last few years have been exceptionally tough when her father, Salvador Mabuyango, sold off the family's possessions.
O dinheiro bebeu. Ontem estava andando lá na rua, ficar no barraca, beber essa dinheiro. Depois voltou.
I've tracked Rosita's story since birth, but in the past few years I'd lost all contact. Join me, Frank Farrow, on Special Assignment on SABC 3 at 8:30 p.m. for this exclusive report.
We kick off this week's show by seeing how Kenyans are paying tribute to the victims, as well as not only how they've coped, but how they return stronger after the attacks.
Last year, images of the 4-day Westgate Mall attack saturated front pages.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, artists have assembled to celebrate the peace this war-torn country has not had in a long time.
No conflict that can't be solved without a conversation.
The Journal, every Saturday at 1:30 on SABC News.
Welcome back. This is Newsroom now. In a bid to try and tackle the high student dropout rate, the Council on Higher Education has proposed that all undergraduate degree and diploma qualifications be extended by a full year. The Council believes that restructuring the curriculum was the most effective way of dealing with underpreparedness of first-year students. A document tabled by the Council found that more than half of South African students dropped out of university and just 1 in 4 graduates in the minimum time. The report also revealed that the new structure would produce 28% more graduates and cost an additional 16% in government subsidies. A decision that received a thumbs up from 17 out of the 26 of South Africa's public universities. Now, from the Council on Higher Education, we are joined by the CEO, Dr. Denise Webstock, this morning. Very good morning to you, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Eben. It's acting CEO.
Acting CEO. Well, we all act in some way or the other in life.
I know.
Denise, can I kind of cut to the chase a little bit here? You know, people say that this sounds very good in theory, but what about the financial aspect? What about the extra burden on families and the extra burden on the public purse?
Okay, thank you very much, Eben. I think, as you rightly said, the Council has been looking at this problem of poor throughput rates for some time, and we put together a task team to examine it more carefully. And the task team was led by Professor Njabula Ndebele. Now, we looked at the problem and saw that we now have better ways of tracking the cohorts. And we saw that the problem is so big that it has to be a systemic problem rather than an individual one, which means that we need a systemic kind of intervention. So, of course, when we did our modeling about how to do this, you look at the worst case scenario, the biggest possible number of programs and so on to see whether it's both affordable, feasible, and so on. In the analysis of the problem, what is the problem? Why are our young people not getting through higher education? There are a number of reasons we came across. Finance is one of them. Change of curriculum is another, not being prepared. But the main one in our analysis was that students are academically underprepared. We call this an articulation gap between school and higher education. And we thought, what can higher education do to narrow that gap? Now, we also saw that, as you rightly said, only 27% of the students who come in manage to do a degree or a diploma curriculum in the regulation time. Most of them who succeed, and only half will succeed, take 4, 5, 6 years to do that program, which means that you have a number of repeat students in the system. That all costs money. And it's not very conducive for teaching, because in your class you have repeat students who are doing it for the first time, and so on. It's hard to know where to pitch your lectures.
Denise,
so we looked at that.
Sorry,
no problem.
Apologies. You just say this unpreparedness or underpreparedness. Shouldn't this be something that we sort out in the high school curriculum instead of trying to babysit them through the higher education scenarios?
Yeah, but of course that's something we've heard a lot, and we've heard in the responses that we got from institutions. Why do we not work on it at school level? And of course we need to do that. The reality is that we also worked out that if we were to keep things as they are, in the same throughput flows through the system that we have currently, we would need, to be able to make a difference in the graduate output, we would need 100,000 more well-prepared students tomorrow. Now, with the best will in the world and with great respect to basic education, that's not going to happen tomorrow. It might take some time to get there. So in the meantime, we have to be realistic and look at what it is that we can possibly do. Now, just your second point was about, is this affordable? Could we actually have an extra year? What the proposal is actually saying is not necessarily an extra year. It is saying, please let's fund an extra 120 credits for most degrees, for most students. Not everybody, not all degrees. And what that would be used for is for the developmental work that is needed to be able to help our students to get through their curricula. We have found that there are blockages at the beginning because they come in underprepared, but there are also blockages at various transition points within the curriculum. I'll give you an example. In engineering, for example, you've learned your basic sciences, your engineering sciences, you've got through all of that. Then all of a sudden, in third year, you hit design. You've had design nowhere in your background. So we're saying if we had this 120 extra credits funded, we could build in those developmental programs at the requisite parts in different curricula to enable our students to get through. We think it's unconscionable that so many of our students end their time at university with debt, with no qualification, and frankly at the moment with really nowhere else to go unless they do manage to find some further education and training possibility.
Dr. Denise,
that's in a sense where we're going. Yes.
What about international benchmarks? What are they saying? What are they doing internationally?
Internationally is a big place. So they're doing different things. I think what's different for us is that we actually have a relatively small system. So you will find poor throughput rates elsewhere, let's say maybe even in the United States. But there you have an 80 to 90% participation rate in a variety of kinds of institutions across the system. we have a 19% participation rate. So we are choosing the best 10% of our young people, but we are only managing to get half of those through higher education. So for us, those kind of statistics are a major warning light that we really need to do something about this in order to get our economy going, to get our professions happening, to get our citizenry more solid, and to raise the levels of education in the country.
Dr. Webstock, this is it's something that we will revisit with you, because we think this is one of the most important discussions going on in South Africa right now. Thank you for joining us. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but we will revisit this because it's such an important story and it is such such an important development. Let's just have a quick look at your tweets. What are you talking about? We love your views at SABC Newsroom. That's where you have to. Questays #1 says, maybe I'm plain stupid, but radical change is within heart. Got nothing to do with King George V statue. Yes, very good one, Questa. Made in India says, and while we're at it, can we also change the name of this country? Azania in our lifetime. Rhodes must fall, King George must fall. Azania. It's a beautiful name, isn't it? Agreed. As a KZN student, I will be happy to see a transform university unapologetically. Yes, transformed? How does a university transform? A university transform, yes, but we need people to pass their degrees and get their credits so that our economy can work. Made in India said, attention, Tux students, the time to act is now. Tux is different, like Stellenbosch. There you have a picture. It says, colonial symbols must fall. That's the one. We as South Africans should celebrate our African heroes, not our oppressors. From Trian Amarchant, if that is correct. Yeah, interesting take on it. Interesting take on it, but the question is, do we just throw the baby out with the bathwater? Somehow I don't think so. We need to find a balance here. Today's picture of the day is on the fire that broke out at an oil factory in Mulbeni, South Coast Road, that is in KwaZulu-Natal. Look at that wonderful picture. Thank you, Mel, for making the picture so much more visible than it's been in the past. Bigger picture we have now. The blaze started at around 2 a.m. this yesterday morning, and reports suggest large quantities of cooking oil have been destroyed in the fire. The picture comes from I Love Durban, captioned, well done to our brave firefighters who put out the blaze on the south coast this morning. We salute you. Hashtag Durban, hashtag fire. That's where you can go look at more pictures if that's what you want to do. But let's have a quick look at what's happening on our Newsroom Facebook page. Trade union NUMSA, well, they says about 3,000 members at Eskom's Medupi Power Station are ready to return to work after members embarked on an unprotected protest to submit a memorandum on Wednesday. Then, as Nigerians head to the polls tomorrow, their main concern for the country's economy is the need for electricity. And yesterday, airlines rushed to change their rules as to require a second crew member in the cockpit at all times. This just hours after French prosecutors suggested the co-pilot who locked himself in the cockpit of the German jetliner had crashed it on purpose. You can find all of those stories and a whole lot more on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can also visit our website, sabc.co.za/news, for all the latest updates all of the time. Time for us to take a break. He'll be back shortly with Newsroom.
Zoom into Africa. This is Namibia. The president is Mr. Hifikepunye Pohamba. Namibia got independent from South Africa on 21 March 1990. The population is over 2 million people. One of the major languages spoken is Afrikaans. Monetary unit is the Namibian dollar.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. Let's just have a look at the stories making headlines today. The Police and National Prosecuting Authority are expected to meet today to discuss an impasse over the summons issued against NPA Deputy Head Mqoba Jiba. It appears the NPA handed the summons to police officers who were not appointed to investigate the Jiba case. Police say they were shocked to hear about the summons in the media on Wednesday. Judgment is expected in the Luke Tibbetts murder trial in the High Court sitting in Palm Ridge. Lindrai Kaku is facing 18 charges, including the murder of 3-year-old Tibbetts. Last week, murder accused Kaku told the court his firearm could have been the one that killed the toddler. Eskom CEO Teviso Matona should know today if his suspension will be reversed. The Labour Court in Johannesburg is expected to deliver judgment in the challenge by Matona not to be suspended. He is one of 4 senior Eskom executives who were asked to step aside earlier this month while the power utility held a fact-finding inquiry. Remember, you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page. Just search for Newsroom. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Yevon, back to you.
Thank you very much. Now, thousands of triathletes have descended on Nelson Mandela Bay for the Standard Bank Ironman African Championship that takes place on Sunday. More than 2,000 athletes have registered to take part in this endurance event, which sees them tackle a 3.8-kilometre swim, 180-kilometre cycle, followed by a standard marathon. Yes, all in one day. This year, it also boasts the strongest professional field the event has ever had. Now, Janine Lee is standing by in Port Elizabeth. Talk about the event with Paul Wolf, who's the Ironman race director. Good morning to you, Janine.
Hello, Yevon. Pretty scary stuff, eh, when you mention all those distances. I'm sure you're not putting your hand up for next year.
You know, Janine, yeah, no, I'm not, eh? The weather.
Okay,
Let's talk about the weather,
yeah,
rather.
Very exciting weekend here in... Sorry, Yevon, repeat that?
I say let's talk about the weather, rather. It's raining there by you.
Okay, listen, well, more importantly, the weather on Sunday is going to be pretty good at this stage, and that's all the athletes ask for, not too hot, not too much wind from PE. You know, we can be pretty nasty when it comes to wind, but the forecast looks pretty good. But an exciting weekend for Nelson Mandela Bay, the Standard Bank Ironman Championship, one of 5 championships held around the world, championship status for this event, which is wonderful. But as you said, I've got Paul Wolf here, the director of the race. Let's have a chat to him. Paul, thanks for holding the umbrella, keeping us dry. Paul, just how the status of this event has grown over the years.
That's incredible. I mean, just the number of people that even come down to watch it now is just incredible. We've got over 600 international athletes. We've got the strongest pro field outside of the World Championship in Kona. So it's a bucket list race now. The guys are really wanting to get here. It's amazing, even the South Africans, every year on year, our numbers are growing. So it's really great for the city.
Paul, just the championship status, it elevates the race to a degree. How did we get it for our event here on the African continent?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, we've impressed them over the years, but obviously to be a World Series, they needed one on the African Championship on the African continent. So we've been working hard at trying to get that. Obviously, with Standard Bank coming on board as our naming rights sponsor, it let us do that because the prize money is substantially more. The infrastructure, the step up we have, internationally live stream TV for the first time. It has been done twice now, last weekend in Melbourne. And yeah, we've got a whole crew coming in to be able to stream this around the world live on Sunday.
The development aspect of the race, I know we've got quite a big development team taking part this year.
Yeah, I've got 21 athletes coming from my development team, but we actually did the stats. We've got a 50% growth of previously disadvantaged people every year coming to do Ironman. So that from where it was virtually a white sport and an elite sport, the people are coming through. It's actually becoming a sport to do, even amongst people that never normally used to swim, which is great news for us.
Let's talk the average Joe in the streets. For the professionals, it's slightly different. It's their day job. They've got time to train. How difficult is it for somebody who perhaps, keeps a full-time job, wants to train? I mean, a lot of time needs to go into it.
Yeah, especially if you've got family and children. It is a bit of a thing you have to do. Most guys are up 4 o'clock in the morning, having something to eat quickly, out training to 6, shower, get going. Then they try and squeeze a little bit of lunch if they can. And if they've got very kind bosses, they maybe get off a bit earlier to 4:30 instead of 5. And then they head out for a quick sea swim or something like that. So it's time management for sure. Weekends, hopefully most of the guys are making family time as well, but it does take a big chunk out of your life.
Now, Paul, come Ironman Day, you as race director, what is the part that worries you the most? What do you like to see that get over and done with, and then you can maybe relax a little bit?
The biggest problem for me is obviously close down. We're a major city, and most of us think it's a tiny city, but once we start closing down the roads, to get all the public to understand we have roads closed, to get all the people off the roads, to safely get them, and then obviously to get everyone in the water. I mean, 2,000 guys into the sea, out of the sea, is always a stressful period. It's the easiest part of the race, but it's one of those parts where everyone is the most nervous of. So once I get the last swimmer out the water, then half my day is done, I always feel. Because I know that my roads are closed, it's safe for cycling, and then obviously everyone's out the water and we're having a race day.
Strongest pro field, you want to put your head on a block, tip a winner?
Oh, no, I don't want to do that. No, really, there's at least 4 to 5 guys can win it. Hopefully the South Africans are going to be in the mix. But yes, we've got ex-world champions racing in that. So, and he actually came out here and he did a bit of a recce. He did a training here in December. So I think he's going to be the man to keep his eye on. But I don't want to mention names because I know when I do that, it comes back to bite me.
Okay, we'll let you off the hook. Paul, just chat to us briefly about the South African guys. We've got some top contenders here.
Oh, James Cunningham is the fastest African ever to do the Ironman distance. He still has to come good in PE. He came good in East London. He's won there. But then obviously got Carl Buckham who came second last year. So, yeah, hopefully those two are going to be right up there and in the mix.
Lastly, Paul, just briefly, how important is it for, the athletes to have the spectators come out?
It's incredible. I mean, I've raced around the world and I wish I could race in PE because the guys, you can see, they've already started marking out their spots. From Thursday night, they were marking the spots along the beachfront and they actually come and defend those places. So it's 30,000 people along the course. It's just wall to wall when you come into town. So when the guys do the one section out at the university, it's quiet because it's a reserve and they feel like they're going into the graveyard. They always call it the graveyard because they're so used to this huge hype with all these spectators and they go into a dead area for 5K and they must come out again and then they get picked up again.
Briefly, Paul, I did say last question, but just one more. Just tell our viewers what's the cut-off time? How long have the back enders got to finish it, and what are the words they wait to hear at the end?
Yeah, the thing about Ironman, you actually have a time for swimming. So at 20 past 9, so they've got 2 hours and 20 minutes to finish the swim. By 5:30 in the evening, they have to be off the bike and in transition, and then 12 o'clock at night, at 17:59:59, we cut it off. Okay, so all want to hear that word, and Paul K is great at this because you are an Ironman, and they live and die for being called that.
Paul, thanks for joining us this morning. Okay, that's what the Ironmen here in PE want to hear on Sunday. They want to hear those words, you are an Ironman. And even before I get back to you, I must just say, I was speaking to a chap this morning and he said, there's so many beautiful bodies walking up and down. He's looked at all these women triathletes and he said he's already fallen in love 16 times. So with that thought, I'll leave you, and from a very wet Nelson Mandela Bay, hopefully it's good on Sunday. We're going to hand back to you in Johannesburg.
Thank you very much, Janine. We try and keep it clean here in the on morning television. Janine Lee coming to you live from PE with Ironman scenarios playing out there the weekend. She says the weather's going to be good. Doesn't look like it at the moment. I can also tell you the friendly city, PE, well, the Germans there, they say it's the most hospitable place in the world that they've been to. So how about that? That's a good news, isn't it? Now, finally, it's all about the lights, the camera and the action at this year's Royalty Soapy Awards, which are set to take place this Saturday at Durban's International Convention Centre. All eyes will be set on Isibaya and Scandal, which are leading with 16 nominations each, followed by Seven Delan with 14 nominations. Now, joining us today in studio is the awards founder, Winnie Nsaba. A very good morning to you, my dear. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a very interesting concept, Soapy Awards. We've got a lot of awards ceremonies in South Africa now at the moment. What makes the Royalty Soapy Awards different from all the rest?
Well, those awards you're talking about are mostly for music, if you think about it. For actors, it's only the SAFTAs. So I felt it's not enough. It's not enough, especially I wanted to look into the genre of soapies. I mean, these are the most watched shows on television. Yes. I thought, why don't we just tap into this genre and explore more, especially the creative side, the people that work behind the scenes. They also need recognition. We are just about recognizing and awarding excellence.
Now, it's the second time that the awards are going to be taking place. What can What can people expect? What will be different this year?
The fact that last year all our results were determined by our judges, the panel of experts. But this year we thought the performance categories, let the viewers out there have a voice. Let them decide who they want to see walking out with the royalty statuette. So we've included that. The viewers have been voting. And also our hosts. This year, last year we had Shomla and Dr. Moll. So this year we are using the Kolayats. Oh, they are funny. They are funny. It's going to be a beautiful, funny, and light and glamorous show.
Well, that is fantastic to hear. Let's just talk about the nominees. You say the people have spoken, they've voted. Who do you think, who are the leading contenders as far as some of the votes are concerned now?
I don't know. I declared. I'm an actress myself. I can't know such things. I really don't know.
So when are you winning then the award if you're the patron and you're acting?
I can't, unfortunately, I can't. That's why I'm saying we still need more for actors as well, so that I can also get nominated because I'm still an actress.
Okay, we're not going to talk about last year then, because we'll talk about this year. Let's talk about last year. Who won and what sort of stood out for you from the event?
It was the support. I think it was the support, seeing that we were starting it, and I'm sure people would have thought, but what if? But the support that we got from the industry itself, because they submitted their nominations, and yeah, we are moving.
Now, I know you don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but I understand there's also going to be a couple of Lifetime Achievement Awards that you are putting forward this year.
Yes.
Can you tell us who are they going to be and how it's going to be done, or can't you?
I can't reveal who, but I can say there's two this time, because when our judges were putting their scoring, they tied. So we're going to just honor both of them.
Winnie, seriously, you come here, you can't tell me anything. At least tell the people how much they pay for the tickets.
100 rand. They're just 100 rand at ShopRite and at CompuTickets.
Yeah, and it's at Durban International Convention Centre. It's a sort of red carpet kind of event.
It's starting at 6. We're doing our own Southwood. Why not? There's Hollywood, there's Nollywood, there's Bollywood. We are starting our Southwood.
Now, finally, it won't be broadcast live on television. Where will people be able to watch it afterwards?
Ukhozi FM is going to broadcast live for radio listeners, and then on television it's going to be on Mzansi Magic on the 11th of April.
Oh, Winnie, fantastic. Thank you for coming in today and giving us a heads up on, well, the Royalty Soapy Awards. It should be a red carpet event here. She's beautifully dressed in red here. Winnie Ntabo is the founder of the Royalty Soapy Awards in Durban over the weekend. Now we're going to close with a performance. It's Friday. It's a happy day. Outsource is a hip-hop duo which was was formed by Jacob Mochari and Cabello Moriosello. Today, they take us into the weekend with their hit track, I Can't Lie. This is Newsroom. Bye-bye.
It was Outsource familiar.
So we chillin', but upon the remote spacing. Beautiful people, vibe is amazing. Since I sit there, now my emo plating. If you bout that happily pop pass, we blazing. Time to have fun, get straight in my jets. Get it, but not swag, yeah, we buying them drinks. Hey, it's all nice, ladies, it's all nice. Ready for deal, it's very bonus. So, Noki Makamang, Kishevile way, now one hour in Pakistan. So many options, but I promise, baby, you the one. Even without the script, and got for editor story, son. So lay back in the cuts, got the ball, get for Twitter, son. Can I let plant, grab a cup, fill it up. Baby, know what is up, even though we screaming the hour, we turning up. Hey, you can always come through the chomita, I hope I beat there's a party over here, got the girls and the guys over here. I can't lie. And then we do it again and again with your friends in my gang.
Yes, it's just your thing with 2 bottles of that gin. Do this for the call in, say it loud if you call in. If you're not here, then buddy, you really missing. We ain't stressing around here, it's good living. That whole pimping, liquor sipping with the women. We all chilling, celebrating, cause we winning. This feeling is so good, it puts her in the mood. And she loved the way I took her hard like a crook, it's all good. Happy faces everywhere as I stare, big pimping over here, big pimping over here. It's real smokers up in here, light wanna keep the smoke funk up in the air, keep the smoke up in the air. And slow it down for the ladies, hold me down when my bottle is empty. And maybe if I come around your time, it's going down. But for now, we're putting it down. And yes, to another round.
You can always come through the Chomita, how I beat it. There's a party over here, got the girls and the guys over here. And then we do it again and again with your friends and again.